Hey gang, Spacetime Badass here. Today I will be giving you some of my personal tips that I use to help me with the hypnagogic state. So when I had decided to start learning the lucid dreaming practices on my own from the ground up, I had a lot of determination and patience, and specifically with Wild, like a lot of the people who are first starting out. Now, I don't recommend Wild, as always, as your first technique to try. I would always recommend Mild. But nonetheless, there are going to be some people out there who, like me, will try that first. So with that dedication, I would actually lose a lot of sleep by staying in bed super still as soon as I went to bed for several hours. There were a few nights that I sat there as still as I could for 5 hours and did not get anywhere with it, did not get any sleep, and it was not a fun day afterward. So the first real tip for this is if you're going to try to enter the hypnagogic state, it is much, much easier to do that if you do wake back to bed first. So wake back to bed, of course, go to sleep for approximately 4 or so hours, get up for a little while, and then when you go back to bed, then try to enter the hypnagogic state there. This works well because it positions your sleep cycle so that when you go back to bed, you should, if done correctly, enter the REM state pretty immediately. So first and foremost, definitely do wake back to bed with it. Now, there are a lot of little techniques that you can do to enter the hypnagogic state as for Wild, so it's, obviously right before the dream starts, so hypnagogia is very much a part of any Wild practice. So there's a ton out there that you can look up and figure out which one is right for you. I made a video about what I use to get into the hypnagogic state a little bit better, and it's kind of like a music-based technique, and I used that for quite a while, and I still do from time to time, so if you want to check that out, I will have a card on screen now. But really, all of these techniques share one thing in that there has to be a point of focus. So you'll choose something to focus on. One that still works pretty well for me is focusing on the darkness behind my eyelids. And with this, there are a lot of kind of little things that are kind of, will throw it off a bit. So what you would need to do is either keep your eyes at a fixed point behind your closed eyelids, as in staring at a single point, which is really, really hard to do. But I've done that before. But the thing that works best for me is to kind of not focus on a single point, but rather to try to take in the full field of view. So everything that you can see, try to take it all in at once. And you can practice this with your eyes open. No matter what you do, your vision will be on a fixed kind of point. There will always be something that is at the center of your vision, regardless of where you're specifically focused. But if you just kind of allow yourself to take in your periphery as much as possible and try to see everything that you're seeing as one thing at once. So we're not really focused on where our eyes are directly pointed so much as we are focused on the whole of our vision. So there will still be kind of a fixed point at the center of your gaze, but the focus will be on everything. So this is kind of difficult to explain. I'm sure there's probably some of you who are going to be confused, so if you have any questions, put those in the comment section down below, and I will do my best to kind of guide you to what I mean a little bit better. But when I do this behind my closed eyes, it becomes a lot easier not to move my eyes, which is a really bad thing, like moving your eyes, especially as the hypnagogic state is beginning, or if you're kind of in the throes of that, then moving your eyes, trying to follow the patterns, the lights, whatever, it will throw you out of the state. So it's best to really practice trying to keep your eyes specifically still, but really keeping everything still is another hurdle. But your eyes are, I think, in my opinion, the hardest thing to keep still. So this is a skill that you're going to have to build. And hypnagogia is really interesting in that when you try to look directly at it, it tends to disappear entirely. So following it with your eyes is really kind of pointless, as it will just ruin the state altogether. As for keeping everything else still, is kind of difficult and also a skill to be practiced. What I find is my dog's going crazy. What I find to be the most helpful is to stretch your body out a lot before you actually try it. So if you're not doing wake back to bed, which you should, and even if you are, actually scrap that. When you do this, stretch your body, every muscle in your body while you're laying in bed. Do this a few times. Even clenching and releasing your muscles will make you very much relaxed and less apt to move. And from there, I say just try to remain still and not focus on being still too much, but rather keep your focus behind your closed eyes if you're doing that. Just whatever your point of focus is, make it that and not your body or your breathing or anything like that, unless your fixed point is your breathing. But regardless, what I say with that is if you have an itch or you need to move early into the practice, just go ahead and do that. We don't have to be stiff as a board right from the get-go. But if you're far enough into the practice where your body starts making you feel like you want to move, or you're itching, or something hurts, or maybe erratic breathing, erratic heartbeat, these sorts of things are kind of designed to throw you off. So if you're deep into the practice, in that session and you haven't moved or anything, then we know it's a legitimate concern. So there, it's not very comforting, but you kind of have to learn to deal with these sorts of things. Now, doing wake back to bed alone, all these things that are going to occur that are kind of going to freak you out and feel like you need to move and stop what you're doing. But wake back to bed completely makes all of these things less intense, so definitely do wake back to bed. But basically, all of these things that distract you are kind of your brain's way of seeing if the mind is asleep so that it can begin repairing itself. So basically, we're learning to pretend as though we are asleep. And, as of course, you've all heard of mind awake, body asleep is the state we're trying to achieve, and that is a part of the process. As far as getting past all of these hurdles, it is kind of mental warfare, but probably the most helpful thought that has occurred to me throughout the process and gotten me through it a lot of the time is that my body does this every night when I'm going to sleep. The only difference is that now I am just aware for it. Another thing is this idea of kind of letting your body go a little bit. Now, you kind of encounter this a lot when you're talking with people who are in the astral projection or out-of-body experience kind of side of things. But that's the only thing I think I've found useful from their approaches to is this process of letting the body go, the physical body. So if you're preparing to go into the hypnagogic state, trying to do a wild or what have you, or if you just want to see what the hypnagogic state is like, having this mentality that you are focused on what you're doing and not at all interested in the goings-on of your body, which is really difficult to do because if you feel short of breath, you can start to panic. So there's a lot of a learning curve to that, and a process of accepting these things as they arise, which is sort of akin to meditation in a way. So hopefully that helps too. So as for a lot of these things, it's mainly just kind of getting yourself through it mentally in any way you can, and it's going to be a very, very much a learning process. So the other things I would just kind of say as kind of tag-ons to this is that practicing meditation in waking life will greatly benefit you here in dealing with all the things that arise. So if you're meditating and you feel a pain, you can focus on kind of what pain feels like, and in that instant, and kind of move past it and get more comfortable with dealing with these adverse reactions that you're going to be dealing with to some degree, even if you do wake back to bed, most likely, when trying to do the hypnagogic state. I think that just about covers the things that I wanted to share in this video, guys. Hopefully the background noise was not as distracting to you as it was to me. Otherwise, feel free to check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SpaceTimeBadass. As always, check me out on Patreon as well if you want to help out, and there are some links down in the description. Links down in the description box down below for the Dreamleaf affiliate link, so if you want to help the channel out and get something good for yourself as well, then do that. But yeah, thanks for watching, and until next time, take it easy.